happening yet. Braun Kratz Maybin today. What's up, Cam? Are you itching for a trade?
I'm itching, man, but it's just like what? It's not going to be any blockbuster. It's going to be a lot of small moves that really help teams in big ways. You know what I mean? I think it's not going to be anything extravagant, not going to be anything cute, but I think we're going to see moves that are necessities, and I think are going to be also moves towards organizations' futures.
I hope so. I hope we get quantity at least if we're not going to get
Hmm.
the world's largest names, but we'll see. I do want to, before we get to some of these rumors, just click up something from yesterday. So we mentioned at one point James Paxton and how he was DFA'd. That's all still true. I was reading a fan comment that said, "Oh well, he didn't get his $1 million extra incentive for the game started." I checked with multiple people. He in fact did. He is actually a very cheap starting pitcher at this point. So we just wanted to make sure we corrected that. He's got the 4.43 ERA, but as far as money, he is on a base salary of $4 million. So he's getting paid 1.5 for the rest of the season. He already got his opening day bonus of $2 million, his $3 million signing bonus, and the $4 million for games started because he's made all 18 of his scheduled starts this year, Kratz. So point being, I think he's going to get traded in the next couple of days. You have a certain window when you get designated for assignment, but I know we covered him yesterday. I got a little more context on the situation. Obviously, the Dodgers weren't like, oh, let's wait, let's cut him right before that last start for $1 million. That's not a problem for them. And also, I don't feel like they do business like that. So this just makes him even more valuable to trade versus just cutting him loose.
Roll out the barrel. See you, Milwaukee Brewers.
He's going to Milwaukee.
I mean, can that be my lock for the day today? Like, I want that to be my lock.
It can be. I mean, you can't give the Brewers everyone, but this is the guy because the Red Sox, I think, are hot on him too. They had him last year, and he was pretty good for them.
And
He's
let's
worth
stay in that.
1.5
Let's stay
million.
in that division. And let's stay in that division. He will look good in the Birds unit as well. I mean, I can see that as well. I know you're on the Milwaukee train right now, and I feel you. But they need pitching as well. They need some rotation, and with this new format, everybody feels like they're in. Everybody feels like they have a chance. So for that price, I mean, you might not have to give up a lot.
I'm with you. There's 20 teams that are in contention, and they all think they need starting pitching besides, I don't know, the Phillies and the Mariners. So let's charge the damn mound to get to some of these contenders.
He's charging the mound.
Rumors all over the place, reports all over the place. Let's start with Jeff Passan. He put out some notes yesterday, and he said the Orioles have a surplus of young position players. Sure. They're reportedly willing to trade from their big league lineup in part to make room for the likes of the prospects that could come up, like Kobe Mayo and Jackson Holliday. Although we also saw Britt Giroli say, should the Orioles trade top prospect Jackson Holliday, and kind of bring up an article on that front too. So I guess you could try and come up with something crazy for him. But anyway, Passan said the Orioles are willing to discuss moving Ryan Mountcastle or center fielder Cedric Mullins. Well, Mullins having kind of a down year. He's got 1 year left after this. And Mountcastle's having a pretty solid year, obviously, for the position he's at. Probably about an average bat for the position that he plays. The way I read it, though, Cam, is that if the Orioles are swinging really big, that's not going to get your Garrett Crochet, 1.5 years left of a Mullins or a Mountcastle. I mean, if you're a rebuilding team, you want players that you have under control for a while. So I think that's a separate deal. If they're going for, maybe their reliever arm or something like that, like a mid leverage reliever arm, right? Middle innings reliever arm. Okay. But it's going to cost you more if you're going for the top closer or the top starter.
Yeah, I think this is a deal like you start talking about like an Eric Fetty type of player when you start talking about those type of guys, Mullins, Mountcastle, which, let's just say if it was the White Sox, even Mountcastle and Mullins would make that team a lot better. And just, to give, Ryan Mountcastle his flowers, this is the second year now with the Baltimore Orioles where he swung a very consistent bat. So I think his bat plays a little bit more than we may realize. I think his bat would definitely help out a team. And like the White Sox, especially you talk about what they're missing. But I think you're right. I think if you're the White Sox and you start talking about a Crochet, you definitely, you need prospects that you have control over, but you also want guys that are like big league ready right now. Cowser, Hurstead, Holiday, and also too, people keep saying that Jackson Holiday is off limits. Well, Baltimore Oriole has a guy playing shortstop who's really, really good. Last time I checked, Jackson Holiday was naturally a shortstop, so there could be a way or a path where he is in a trade where he can go play shortstop again and somebody can get the piece that they need, because you just don't get arms like Crochet come through every day, and prospects, they come along a dime a dozen, and prospects mean you haven't done anything yet. So there is a world in which that deal a deal like that could happen.
And my thing, Cam, is you're on the money with the guys that are major league ready, but I mean, Mountcastle and Mullins don't have enough service time left years of control left for a team like the White Sox, the Mariners, all the teams that are the definite sellers. They don't want those guys because they're not good next year, or they're not planning to be good next year.
Yeah, and that's why I mentioned the Fetty, Eric Fetty type of guy. When you start talking about those guys,
but why even take?
Yeah,
Cam, why even take them
agree.
though? If you're the Sox, I'd rather take a freaking double-A ball prospect if I'm the White Sox. Dan O'Dowd just told us they're prepping for 2027 to be good again.
Right. So when I look at it, Mountcastle, you can re-sign him for cheap. Mullins, you look at what he's doing. You got a veteran guy who's not going to cost you a lot when you look at his production right now. So I'm still looking at guys who can help you kind of start to build that culture towards 2027 is when I talk about those deals. And again, those wouldn't be the only two. I would only assume there would be some type of prospect in that deal when you talk about Fetty, because he's no slouch. He has done his thing this year, and he's going to make somebody a lot better.
All right, I'm going to give the Mariners. You're going to hear me say the Mariners need this guy. Mountcastle, he has got more than 6 bats in the bat rack. So he's going to the Mariners, and he has a pulse. They need, that is – they might even play him in center field just to put a man in the field. Mountcastle is a guy that needs to go to a team that has aspirations of winning right now. And if the Orioles want any of the starting pitching that is out there, in the sense that in the Crochet, and when we talked about Scooble before, you have to start with Jackson Holiday. And I don't know that the Orioles are going to do it. To me, I think it's a quick play. If the White Sox say we will take Jackson Holiday for him, to me, it's time for the Orioles. I think they balked too many times the last 2 years in making that big move. They went with Burns. They don't have Burns after this. They'll have Crochet even after this season. So I get it. I hear what O'Dowd said yesterday, that I think they're going to balk at it. I think this guy, they have their shortstop of the future. It is okay to give that man another opportunity. Unfortunately for Jackson Holiday, it would be in Chicago.
I'll bring up another note from yesterday. So I was reading Mark Feinsand, who works for MLB, his notes column. He was saying how the Orioles and the Dodgers are going for Scooble. Passan kind of turned that down in his report. Ken doesn't sound too into that happening either. I know we've talked about it a lot over the last couple of days. It's just that he would be the biggest name that gets traded if it happens. But Passan said not one executive that he polled thinks that he's actually getting traded. So I'm like, okay, Kratz, what's going on here? Do we have certain execs trying to stir up a rumor about a guy where really the Tigers are sure, we'll listen, throw something crazy at us just so we can see what the value of this player is. And that's just doing your due diligence. And then it's turning into his availability that isn't really a thing. It's cool. Yeah. If you want to give me your 5 best prospects and the 2 best players on the core of your major league team, sure, we'll do that. But otherwise we're good.
If we have a house and we put our house on the market, people think our house is for sale, right? Well, maybe some people just want to see how much their house is worth so they can go back and be like, hey, my house was worth this much. Ain't no chance. So if there's another executive that has a high-end arm, the easiest way is to get some rumors out there. I know we don't have a Tarek Scooble, but we have this guy, we have this pitcher. What's it worth? What if the Mariners put this out there? Hey, Tarek Scooble's available. What do you think they could get for a Logan Gilbert, a Brian Wu, one of their top end rotation guys that they have a dearth of, that they have an excess of? What can we get if we throw one of those guys out on the market? Because Jerry DiPoto, he loving the trades.
Hey, Kratz, by the way, I have to do this because this happened, I think, one of the other days, too. You can't say dearth. Dearth is the opposite. Dearth means you don't have much. Surplus.
A girth?
Girth or dearth? What word are you saying right now?
What are you saying? Are you saying pan or Pam?
Dude, dearth
is the opposite.
It's famine, scarcity, inadequate supply.
Okay. So the
Surplus.
White Sox have a dearth of players in the big leagues right now. The Mariners have a surplus of pitchers. So thank you.
There we go. There we go.
Okay.
I'm there for you. Obviously,
no, I appreciate that.
I'm not the wordsmith, but I'm the Twitter security guard or the YouTube chat security guard, so that someone doesn't try and call you out for it. But anyway,
I hope they do.
Yes, thank you. Former Tiger Cam Maybin. We've talked about Scooble a lot the last few days, but I haven't gotten your take. What's the state of Detroit baseball right now?
For me, there's no way they trade Tarik Skubal. Me and Kratz spoke about it earlier. The last time they traded a guy of this caliber, his name was Justin Verlander. And we saw what they got in return. And it was, no offense to anybody that they got in return, it was not worth what they lost as far as setting them back from a prospect standpoint, from an organizational standpoint. Tarik Skubal is a guy that you build around, especially when you pretty much saw him grow. You've been through the ups and downs with him as far as health goes. You know what he does and what makes him tick. He's the type of guy that you build around, you put the pieces around, and this year you hold on to him. We talked about it. If next year comes about and it looks like the Tigers don't have any direction, it looks like Justin Henry Malloy isn't going to be the guy, Colt Keith isn't going to be the guy. They have some pieces right now that I think they can build around. So to let go of a Tarik Skubal, you said it, Scott, it's got to be major league ready guys along with the top prospects in your organization. And you have to have a plethora, a surplus of prospects, as you guys just mentioned, to get a Tarik Skubal. And you have to be okay with saying we're all in right now. And I think Tarik Skubal is a generational type of player. He's going to change our organization. You talk about maybe replacing a Burns, but it's going to take a lot. And I just don't think Scott Harris and his staff is willing to take that chance, at least not this year. Maybe next year you run it back and you see where he is, but right now you're talking about the potential Cy Young Award winning pitcher for the American League. I think he stays put, and I just think it's all rumor and it's all speculation. Like Kratz said, I'm just trying to see how much my house is really worth. I'm not really trying to sell it.
Skubal's an appraisal. That's fine. And then last
Absolutely.
one. Yeah, I like that. Maybe we'll get to it later, but just wanted to mention, Ken and C. Trent Rosecrans from The Athletic put out a report about the Reds. It's more just to say, hey, if you see them trade a reliever or two, there's a roster crunch there, which is kind of what the Rays had when they traded away Phil Maton and Aaron Savali. It doesn't necessarily mean they're buying or selling yet. They're still one of those teams that looks like they're literally going to play out about a week of baseball and say, are we good? They could take 2 games from the Braves today and then suddenly be like, what a 2.5 or 2 away from a wild card spot. It's just one of those very close call situations right now for them. So we'll see what they do. They don't have a ton to sell either. If you kind of look into how many players are going to be free agents for them after this year, it's not a ton of value. Obviously, Montas probably stands out the most, but he's fallen off a little bit. So it's not like it's crazy value. But anyway, we can get to them later. I want to emphasize this is a big week where we take questions. So we took a ton yesterday. We'll take a ton today. We'll mix them in sometimes during the breaks on YouTube, but many of them obviously while you're watching right now on Bally Sports TV. So we'll step aside. We're going to go over some specific destinations for players that are on the fringe of getting traded. We're going to talk to Tim Kurkjian later and Chad Jennings. Lot to do today. Here we go. We're on a break, but not for the YouTube crowd because we got to talk about AG1. Yes, the green packets that make your day. It is a foundational nutrition supplement that delivers daily nutrients and gut health support, and it's backed by multiple research studies so you can trust what is going into your body. Shouting them out all week long here. If you visit drinkag1.com/foul, I'll let you know in just a minute what you can get as part of the little FT special. But Kratz, give me your best 30 seconds on your AG1 experience. You wake up, you sometimes forget, then you realize that you don't have as much energy, and then you remember.
It's not like I'm not a coffee drinker. So like energy for me, I don't need energy. But for me, I sit there and I go, there's just something not quite clear. It just clears everything up. I love it.
Love that. How was that, Cam? Sold?
Listen, I'm about to pour up right now. I've been on AG1, so you
There you
guys.
go.
I'm glad you guys jumping on board now.
There we go. I love it. We're into daily health, energy, gut health, the whole deal, right? Obviously, it's me and then a bunch of former players on this show. 97% of people in a research study felt more energy after drinking AG1 for 30 days. So, for FT fans, this is still running for you. You can try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3, K2, plus 5 free AG1 travel packs when you make your first purchase at drinkag1.com/foul. That's drinkag1.com/foul. Go check it out. Keep those questions flowing in the chat. We'll get to those during some of these breaks here, and we'll be right back on FT. In the weeds, back on FT. So I want to bring up some specific names. I want you guys to each throw out at least a name or two of some fringe trade deadline players to think about that could get traded. They don't have to get traded. You think they should get traded, and you can pick a destination for them as well. I'll kickstart one. I'm curious if the money will be taken on by another team, even though it's crazy to think that this is a topic of conversation. I could see the Rays buying and selling. They've essentially said that they're going to do that. I've heard some public comments from Matt Neander, who runs the front office there, and it sounds like they'll do a little bit of both if they stay on this course. What about Zach Eflin for a team that's always worried about their budget, and he's making the rest of his $11 million this year, $18 million next year? The Rays have a good number of starting pitching coming back for next season, including Shane McClanahan, who's a Cy Young candidate when he's healthy. They've got names coming back towards the end of this year, like a Drew Rasmussen, who can be a starter again next year. Springs, Bradley's been great for them, right? They've got a pretty good looking rotation. They're always able to churn out starters. I think it would be in their best interest. The hesitation I have, Kratz, is which team will take on that kind of money. I know it sounds crazy because I think that Eflin stuff-wise, when he's healthy, is worth that. There's been past injury concerns with the back. He's been on the IL each of the past 2 years with that issue. He's got a chronic knee issue, but this is a dude that can win playoff games for me. So I'm curious if you think that would be a good name, say for the Dodgers, if they don't end up getting Crochet, if that's who they're after.
Here's the value in Eflin. He's been to the World Series. Now, what people don't remember, he wasn't a starter in the World Series. He was a starter the entire year, and he came in and he was lights out in the bullpen. And it was giving them, the Phillies, some length when he did that. And to me, I think it's a great, great move. I think it is a great move for the Brewers also because of the ability that they have to extract value from pitchers. But I think I think the Dodgers are going to be playing in an upper tier of pitchers. I feel like he's kind of more like in the Paxton range. with a little bit more experience. And Paxton's left-handed, so I think that adds to it a little bit more. So I don't know that the Dodgers are there, so I'm kind of selling it that he would go to the Dodgers. To me, I see him as sliding in even before Cam had mentioned the Cardinals, like teams like that. Do the Pirates need a fourth guy? I see him sliding in there. I don't necessarily see the Dodgers.
Any other teams in mind?
I really didn't want to spend this whole show agreeing with Kratzy today, but I don't know why it's starting off this way. But I'm with Kratzy, seriously, and I stay in the Central. And you said a team that I think nobody's thinking about right now. I think the Pirates are in really good shape right now to add a guy like that. The payroll isn't in bad shape. That's a deal they can afford to add. You talk about what Paul Skeens, they're starting to believe that they're changing that culture, and they're starting to believe that, hey, with this new format, we do have the team that we may be a starter, maybe one more bat away from really making some noise coming down the stretch in the Central. So I look at the Pirates, and the Brewers, of course, was another a team that I was looking at, the way they are able to develop pitching. And you talk about a guy with experience, but I'm going to stick with the Central and go with the Pirates. I think the Pirates would be a great fit for him, and I think he would bring some much-needed veteran leadership along with what Paul Skeens and company has, helped provide in that city, and that's a little bit of energy and juice.
I'm going hard after Cam today. And it's always about money, but I don't see it for Pittsburgh only because I don't think they'll take on money like that. They're cheap as hell. That's just how they operate. I would look at Boston as another idea because they're going to bring on a veteran arm. I would look at St. Louis. They're looking for veteran starting pitching depth. And I would look at Houston. That's another team that's standing out. They desperately need pitching. And these are teams that would bring on some cash because think about it. You have to talk your owner into taking on what? $4 or $5 million for the rest of this year. And then a guy you'll be on the hook for next year who's good. So that's where I'll go against you, Cam. I think Pittsburgh is more into a bat, and I don't see them taking on a ton of money right now at the trade deadline. But we'll see. We'll see. You got a name?
For me, Nick Martinez. I think that's a guy, a veteran guy. And I look at, the Yankees, guys that need some back end, possibly a guy that can start as well. I think Nick Martinez is the type of arm that somebody desperately needs. And again, it seems like we're staying in the Central, but again, another team that could use a Nick Martinez is the Milwaukee Brewers. I think he would fit in there perfectly. I think he has the type of experience that they need. I think he gives them a different type of length. So that's a guy as well when you talk about the Reds and where they are, like you said, not really in sell mode, but because of roster crunch situation, they might have to get rid of a guy. And I think you look at a guy like Nick Martinez that somebody should definitely be highly interested in bringing in to kind of help bolster a rotation.
I don't know if we're only going pitchers here for our fringe players, but I think a lot of teams need a little offense. And a guy that's producing.
I thought we were talking arms right now. Yeah.
Go anywhere. Go anywhere. No, go anywhere.
Kevin Pillar.
I like it.
Kevin Pillar. How is he not? And then maybe he doesn't fit the criteria of fringe guys that are going somewhere.
He doesn't. He's getting traded, dude.
Okay. But
you think he's going to stay with the Angels?
What about Jonathan India?
That's more of a fringe to me because they don't have to trade him.
Exactly. But okay. Jonathan India, that's a fringe guy to me who it seems like the last year they've been trying to get rid of him almost. At least that's what the whispers seem like. And he seems like a great guy. He's showing you right now he has a ton of good baseball in him, extremely versatile. That's a guy, too, that they could be willing to, when you look at what they have up the middle, and Steer, Ailey, Candelario, like that could be a guy that, I think we're talking about maybe on the move that could quietly help somebody improve in a big way.
Good question, by the way, from Armand asking if Nick Martinez's option for next year hurts him. Unfortunately, in the climate that we're at, yes. Even though he's been solid, he's a swingman. You think no, Kratz? Or you're just shaking your head? It's going to rule out certain teams just because he's committed to money. That's just how it works. Options screw up trades sometimes. It's what makes someone like Cody Bellinger so complicated right now. If he was coming back and you're worried about, how he's going to look injury-wise, obviously he's been out for a decent chunk of time, but this is the end of the ride, okay. But because he has player options, it makes it very complicated. So, yeah, Nick Martinez is a little more simple, but he does have, the option for next year opt-outs. So, and I think it's $12 million for 2025. So some teams will balk at that name. Why, by the way, I know we rudely interrupted you. Why do you think Pilar's fringe, Pilar, and obviously he's not going to say this publicly yet, but if this is his last season and he's riding it out, the Angels, he'll be okay, but he'll be a little pissed because why wouldn't he get dealt and be a fourth or fifth outfielder for a team?
Absolutely.
He should be. He should be. But when the articles come out about, well, we don't know who we're going to actually trade, I'm afraid the Angels are going to keep him. But my other name was Patrick Wisdom with the Cubs. I feel like there's never an opportunity for this guy to just fully flourish his power, his an opportunity for a team that's trying to stay in it, but they're like, we don't want to go too much into the contract. The part that pissed me off more about what you were saying, I was shaking my head about the whole option thing. If Nick Martinez is the guy and he has an option, if Cody Bellinger is the guy that your team tags as hey, you know what? We are 2.5 games out of the playoffs right now. If we add him to our lineup, if we add him to our rotation, he gives us so much value. You need to go and do it. Stop balking at that stuff.
Exactly. That's where I'm at. That's where I agree with Kratzy. And we're talking about Major League Baseball. It's one thing to not want to spend money. It's another thing to have money to spend. These teams have money. So, like Kratzy said, it comes a point where are you as an organization? If this is the guy that could help you possibly win this year, and look at what the Diamondbacks did. Hey, if a Nick Martinez can help you do that, why would you not take a chance? I don't even say take a chance. It's not even taking a chance. Listen, it's big league baseball. Nick Martinez is not costing you that much money when you talk about the bigger picture. That's a guy that could help you possibly get to the World Series and win you a championship. Why would you balk on that move? And that's where I get it, Scotty, but it makes no sense to me from a player perspective. If we're trying to win, if I'm a guy and I'm going, hey, we could use that guy, I'm thinking winning and winning only. But I get it. That's not where the climate of the game is either.
This is my last comment on this, and then I'll stop because it irritates me. Everyone looks at the expanded playoffs as, oh, well, now just everybody. It's watering it down. It gives everybody an opportunity. So now when I give you an opportunity, if I give you a job, if I give you a chance on a team, I need you to do everything you can to help this team win. I need you to do everything you can to make Major League Baseball better because everybody gets an opportunity to be in the playoffs. This is your time. Strike. We are one Nick Martinez short. We're going to go get Nick Martinez. We don't want to give up a prospect to get us to the playoffs because we'll give up Jackson Holiday. And that's not why we have the expanded playoffs. The expanded playoffs is so everybody has a chance. Now it's the team's chances to do something about it.
I want to throw out more names, okay? So let me go to the Yankees for a moment. They have some players that are struggling. I know some Yankee fans want to get rid of players that are not performing well. Most of those are probably not possible. Like if you're frustrated about the offense from DJ LeMahieu, I think Gleyber Torres could have value and could be a change of scenery guy and be into it. I think if they have a conversation with him, he might say, yeah, I mean, this is free agent year. This is his time to shine. He's still very young. Could he go elsewhere? And I'll give you one other name at the same time, Kratz, and you can start. Nestor Cortez. I know, the Yankees need a high leverage reliever. They need an offensive boost in multiple spots. After their top end prospects like a Dominguez and a Spencer Jones, it does start to shallow out a little bit. Many teams need starters and might look at Cortez as a guy that can start a playoff game for them, while the Yankees might say, we have some other guys that we favor in that range. They've done this before. They did this with Jordan Montgomery, even though they kind of made the wrong call for Harrison Bader. So what do you think of those two names potentially getting flipped to other contenders, baseball trades?
Nestor, no. Gleyber, yes. I would actually go to the outfield. And when they made Gleyber, I don't know that the value that they're going to get back will eclipse what they think he could do in this second half here as the second half gets underway. To me, they had a surplus of outfielders when they traded for Grisham, when they have Verdugo, when they have a healthy Giancarlo, because right now they have 2 spots in the outfield. So to me, I think they're going to see what kind of value they can get from Verdugo or Trent Grisham. And I think they honestly would love to keep Grisham around because I think they could get more from Verdugo. So if they are going to trade one of those guys that's every day in their lineup, and this lineup was legit a month ago. So don't give me the whole, oh, they're a little old, all this stuff. To me, I think they're just going through a blip in the road.
Yeah, I'm right on with Kratzy. I think Verdugo, I think he has some value. I think the guy still has some good baseball left. I think he is being humbled by the game right now. New York is an extremely hard place to play, but I think teams see value in him. And as far as Glaber goes, this is my thing about Glaber. I think Glaber would probably carry the most value of any of those guys. But when you start to look at the struggles of this lineup, I'm with Kratzy too. I don't think this lineup is just done. But Volpe has struggled over the last month and a half, maybe longer. DJ has not been himself. Rizzo, who's been out, the first base production has been very scarce. I think Ben Rice is 4 for his last 46 or 47. JD Davis you haven't really got much. When you look at it right now, Glaber is actually one of the guys who's actually getting hot right now, and you desperately need offense. So right now, I think the Yankees are just in a very difficult situation with the rest of the offense really lacking. That I don't think they can afford to trade Glaber's bat right now. Glaber is actually swinging a hotter bat. Now you're looking at what might be the blueprint to pitching to the Yankees offense, and that's not letting Aaron Judge beat you. Hey, if he walks 4 times, oh well, we'll take our chances with Soto and everybody else. And when you look at the lineup, Glaber is the only bat right now, as I'm watching the Yankees, that I really feels like have a chance, that has an actual chance at bat to do some damage, to drive in some runs. So I just think they're in a hard spot where they can't let Glaber go. And I think they're going to have to go to a prospect sort of route to try to bring something back, at the break to try to help bolster this team. But I think they can't afford to let Glaber go offensively.
I'm going to finish with fringe names that could get traded. They don't have to get traded, but they should get traded. And I'm just going to put a blanket over the Toronto Blue Jays. They could be a massive player at the Bichette and Vladdy Jr. It's crazy to me at this point. Maybe one, yes, but all of them, hell no. Chris Bassett, there's just a ton of names on there. Even Gossman, if he's got value, when teams want to take on the money there, they should be going nuts right now in my mind. So I just want to put that blanket statement over the Blue Jays that they should wake the hell up and not just look at selling that way their rentals like Kikuchi. This is the time for them, but I don't think they will. I think it's more of a front office politics issue. Anyway, if you have a thought on a fringe player that you think should be dealt, please drop a little comment in the chat. We'll check some of them out and we'll respond to them. Coming right back on FT. Still got a conversation to do live with Tim Kurkjian. We're going to go over some other rumors and answer some questions coming up.
Well, I do think, and Scotty just heard me say this line a lot, so it's a cliche, but I'm going to use it again. In a game of baseball, you can avoid reality all you want. You just can't avoid the consequences of avoiding reality. I think at some point in time, the Rockies just have to embrace reality and stop running from it. Let's use Ryan McMahon for an example in this year's trading deadline. I mean, I was a part of drafting Ryan McMahon. I think Ryan McMahon is an incredible human being. He's an above average defensive third baseman. Do you realize this is the first year that he's got an OPS plus above 100 playing in Coors Field? Every other year it's been the 80s and the 90s. And so, in my mind, this is the top of his value. And you've got a built-in replacement for him. You sign Chris Bryant. Because I think the Toglia kid at first base, I know his numbers aren't great, but he's got 16 home runs and Ryan McMahon's got 14. He's 25. Ryan McMahon is 29. I think the kid could figure it out. And so, just play Brian at third and play Toglia at first. He's 25. He may turn into a core player for you. They have to make more decisions where they stop thinking about winning the game that's in front of them that night and start thinking about how do we build something here that's sustainable for the future, number one. I do think they've got some good prospects in their system. I think they just had a hell of a draft. But it doesn't matter. They don't have enough. They got to keep layering on top of layering the players they have. And then honestly, guys, for me and looking back at it, I think they need to take an approach of what the Tampa Bay Rays do, is that they can't fall in love with their players because altitude changes the physical composition of players over a period of time. It's just a really hard place to play. They have to trade players when they're at the top of their value, know how popular they are within their marketplace. They need to trade them for guys that are major league level, triple A level, or double A level, because those guys, none of them are far from the big leagues. And then they use their draft strategically after the first round to take younger kids that they can give a long time to develop to that have upside impact ceiling. So if you ask me what I would do if I was running the franchise again, I'm telling you exactly what I would do.
We're back on FT, and you can scan the QR code on your screen right now to get a free newsletter. It's called FT Leadoff. It comes out Mondays and Thursdays. We don't bother you too much, and it doesn't take long to flip through. We kind of make sure that you can get through the whole thing in like 2 minutes. Okay, so if there's anything you missed from the weekend or anything from early in the week, that happens on Mondays and Thursdays. Great time to get involved, support the FT fam. Again, it's free. Just scan the QR code on your screen. Obviously, trade talk is center stage this time of year for the next week or so. But let's hit the big games from yesterday. Subway Series was fun, enjoyable. There was a lot. I feel like a lot of storylines there to uncover. So, Cam, I know you were watching. You were live tweeting a little bit. Give me your best stuff from the Yanks falling to the Mets, and the Mets kind of owning them recently in the Subway Series and potentially looking like a better ball club in your mind despite the worst record.
Yeah, it made me question who has the best roster right now, right? We talk about injuries. We talk about how fast the Mets got off. How quickly the Yankees got off to a hot start. That's one thing we always say. That's why you want to get off to a good start, right? If you're the Yankees, because you have some wiggle room. And now you're looking at the Mets. They're playing a very confident brand of baseball. Ever since Jose Iglesias has came back with the OMG, the whole energy has been different. JD Martinez, adding these guys to the lineup has really given them a boost of energy and a boost of confidence. And you're starting to see it when they play the Yankees now in these Subway Series. They don't look in awe at all. They actually look like they believe that they have the better roster. And last night, I think you have to give Jose Quintana a ton of credit. His ability last night to pitch backwards, and I've seen the complete maturation of his game when he was mid to upper 90s and he could blow you away with the fastball and he controlled glove side as good as anybody. But now he still has life, even though it's in the lower 90s. And his ability to pitch backwards, it almost looks like Kratzy's behind the plate calling pitches. And last night, the game plan was beautiful. You see it right there. Don't let Aaron Judge beat you. It was the first team that I felt like actually bought into it, where you saw the previous series, the Tampa Bay Rays just kind of went right at him, where Quintana said, you know what? Judge isn't going to beat me. I'm going to do what I can against Soto, and I'm going to neutralize everybody else. So the game plan was spot on. You have to give them credit. And what it actually did was almost lull Aaron Judge to sleep late in the game against that bat against Diekman, where he froze him. I don't think he knew what to expect. It almost looked as if he didn't know if he was going to get anything to hit, and they took advantage of it. So a great job by the Mets. Their staff, the pitching and the catching was spot on. They were on the same page. And it was a fun game to watch. So I'm eager to see how the Yankees bounce back today, because it's going to be electric, in the Bronx tonight.
Yeah. Credit to, got to say his name, Luis Torrens behind the plate. He definitely mitigated that lineup. He worked his way through the lineup. And I completely disagree with you. I think the Yankees are still the better team. Are they going through it right now? Absolutely. Are they as hot as they were at the beginning? No. But this team is built to be a World Series contender. And maybe I'm biased because I picked them to go to the World Series, but I'm also not that biased because they have the best 1-2 punch in baseball in Soto and Judge. And you saw what can happen with a lineup, but you can't walk the same guy 4 times throughout the rest of the season. So to me, Judge and Soto are going to carry this team, yes. Rizzo's going to come back. G is really close. Giancarlo Stanton's really close. And I think the separator, because you have guys like Nimmo, you have guys like McNeil are starting to play better. McNeil's was really brutal for about a year stretch, part of last year and some of this year. To me, the separator is the pitching staff. I know they've had a little bit of struggles, a little blip in the radar, but Rodon had a great start recently. Cole's going to have a great start. Easy. I think this is the Yankees are the better team.
Man, they got to fix what they're doing against left-handed pitching, though. There's a reason why they throw Quintana and Minaya in this series. There's a ton of guys, when you look up and down the lineup, that just cannot hit lefties this year. They've asked the Yankees coaching staff about it. Besides Judge and Soto, of course, who are on an island on their own. They got to fix that, though. They got to find a bat or two that can hit lefties right now, because it's messy in that department. And yeah, you just avoid the 2 big bats, and especially like what they did to Judge yesterday. It was really impressive in terms of the game plan. So we'll see what happens. But Jahmai Jones leading off and J.D. Davis cleanup, backing up Aaron Judge was, a unique button to press, but not the one that you want to see late July for the Yanks. I know a lot of their fans were freaking out. So they've got some work to do at the deadline, where the Mets probably will just add, a reliever or two to help them out. I don't think they're going to go crazy at the trade deadline. But we can ask all of these questions to Tim Kurkjian from ESPN. He's joining us next on FT. We'll be right back. All right, we've got 2 minutes YouTube chat. Give us some questions, but I'm going to start this off, and we'll do this a couple more times during breaks on the show. Can you guys explain to me why Luis Severino, who I love and is a good soundbite, is helping out Luis Gil during the season when he's about to face his team? Mets end up winning the game, but I don't know if anyone saw the story. Gil got some help from Severino on tweaking his slider grip, and it worked to perfection. It was Slider City yesterday. He was really good. Are we okay with that? Like Kratz, we always talk about how you can't tell certain players a tip when they're on the other team until they finish their career, whatever. This is worse. I mean, this is more, whatever you want to call it, like helping out the enemy at the wrong time. And if they would have lost the game, I'd be like, could you have told him this on Friday?
I don't know. I mean, definitely bad timing. Not worse than telling a guy a tip. If you tell a guy and your lineup is about to face, especially as a pitcher, if you tell, hey, you know what, Sevy? Hey, you're tipping right here. Oh, really, Bobby? Thank you. Okay. When I face your lineup, I'm not going to tip anymore. Like, all the dudes in the lineup are going to be pissed at you. Can a guy make the tweak that fast? I don't know. This is more of a Trevor May pitcher question. So telling a guy a tip, way worse than teaching a guy a new slider at the All-Star break. I know it just happened now, but guys are teaching. Mo taught Roy Halladay the cutter and screwed over a lot of people for a long time.
No, there used to be a whole old thing where you go in and you're playing one of your buddies and you're like, hey, man, send me a bat over. And you wouldn't see that bat till the series was over. And your buddy be raking. He's like, man, I can't send you this bat because I'm raking right now. And listen, you're my guy, but I don't need you banging up my team. So it's kind of one of those things like, hey, I appreciate you helping out a fellow baseball brother, because it's really a brotherhood, right? It's really fraternity. But not right now, man. Not during the season. Maybe when the series is over, you go back to playing National League or American League games. You want to help your boy out. But last night, I mean, you saw he had a quick, good feel. That thing was 88 to 90. I mean, just a different type of bite. And you can really see it was working for him. So, he should be sending Sevy, a nice some dinner, doing something for Sevy to pay him back, because that was
And
definitely something that's going to help him out second half.
that's right. Sevy was also right. The Yanks do only have 2 bats right now. Sorry about it. Be right back with Tim K. Here we go. We are back on FT with Tim Kurkjian from ESPN joining us right now, and we'll get into his website and the podcast as well. I want you to check all of that out. Tim, great to see you, but I wanted to start right away with the dominance of Paul Skeens right now and your take on how rare it is to see a rookie look the way he does, but also can we double down since it's trade deadline time, Tim, and get your take on how the Pirates should support this phenomenon?
I'm not sure we've seen anything quite like Paul Skeens. Look, I'm really old, so I saw Fernando Valenzuela. I was covering in 1981 when he went 8-0 that year with 8 complete games, 5 shutouts, and 4 earned runs in 72 innings. That was something like we've never seen before, and yet Skeens, in his own way, has been just like that. I mean, his first 11 starts, he had more strikeouts and a lower ERA through 11 starts than any pitcher in the history of baseball. And if we would allow him to be his greatest and let him pitch 9 innings, he might have had 2 no-hitters in his first 11 starts. That's what I think we saw with Paul Skeens, those first 11. He was great yesterday. He started the All-Star game. He is a comet, and he is somebody that is going to carry the All-Star experience for the next 10 years. And as for the second part of the question, the Pirates are in this thing. They haven't won in a while. They've got people in Pittsburgh excited. They have to go get him some help. They have to go get the whole team some help, because you can't tease a fan base like this and then just say, all right, we're not doing anything at the break. We're going to try to win with the group we have here. I think that the thing to do is to go get some help and try to make the playoffs.
Is there a chance that Paul Skeens is better than what Paul Skeens is, since every pitcher that has ever left the Pirates is actually better? Clay Holmes, Garrett Cole, Tyler Glasnow. Is there something that could still be unlocked? Because you look at Fernando Valenzuela's, because you said it, his career, he didn't continue this. So is there something more that we could see from Skeens in the future? I don't know what more there could be, but
yes, he's 6'6", 235. He is wildly competitive. Fellas, I did the All-Star game, as I always do, from the one of the dugouts as a radio reporter. And I watched Paul Skeens walk up and down that dugout about 20 times. He could not sit still. Now, again, he's 22 years old and he's starting the All-Star game. Maybe that's the way any pitcher would be. But he didn't see anybody during the pacing back and forth, because that's the zone he was getting into. And Erik, Cam, you know that zone that these pitchers get into. They are in a trance. They don't even know where they are, because all they're thinking about is going out there and throwing 102 miles an hour with filthy secondary stuff. So I learned a little bit just watching him walk back and forth there. And yet after his inning, I interviewed him, and he was completely composed. There is nothing not to like about this guy. And you're asking me, is there more there? I don't think there's any doubt. There's a lot more there for Paul Skeens, and that is really saying something.
That's scary, Tim. I want to stay on the Pirates. And, two-part question. My mother always told me no question's a dumb question, but this may be a dumb question. You look at his dominance, and I know he came up late. Is there any chance that if he stays on this pace, that we can honestly be considering him as the National League Cy Young when you talk about how dominant he's been? Or will his innings, will he just not have enough innings? I look at a guy who I think won it a couple of years ago that didn't have as many innings as Zach Wheeler. I'm losing it right now. But Corbin Burns, I think he won it with less innings, when I think Zach Wheeler looked like he might have should have won it. Is there a chance that, one, Paul Skeens could win a Cy Young this year? And two, you talk about teasing a fan base. What do the Pirates need? What are they missing that they may be trying to go get at the deadline to really put them in real contention?
Well, first off, Cam, there are dumb questions asked because I asked you a dumb question when you were playing. I asked you once if you could dunk it easily, and you looked at me, rolled your
I,
eyes, and said, "Can I dunk it easily? I can dunk it any way that you want." That was a dumb question by me. Now, as for your question, yes, Paul Skeens can win the Cy Young in the National League this year. We no longer have guys throwing up 230 innings anymore. We have nobody who wins. Rarely does anyone win 20 games. He has time to win the Cy Young. We wondered, is there time for him to start the All-Star game? And yes, he was good enough to earn a start in the All-Star game. So we'll see where he goes from here. There are a lot of really good candidates in the National League. And as for what the Pirates need, well, like every other team, they could use another starting pitcher, even though those big three, when healthy, are really good. They could use another middle-of-the-order hitter, and everyone could use bullpen help. So it'll be fascinating to see what the Pirates do here because, again, they've worked their way back into a pennant race here, and this is no time to give up. This is the time to add, not subtract.
Hanging out with ESPN's Tim Kurkjian right now. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at Kurkjian_ESPN and check out his podcast, Great Game or What. We'll give you a little more on that pod coming up in a sec. Tim, let's get to some other trade talk. What are you most excited about over the next week? Is there a certain name? Is there a certain team that really stands out to you? Is there kind of like an island that you're standing on in terms of something that you want to see? You know, we've covered Scooble a lot and kind of shooting down the rumors and thinking that the Tigers are actually just getting an appraisal on what he's worth. But, you know, what do you see with some of the top arms like a Crochet? Is there a big bat that could get moved that we're not talking about?
Well, if Scooble moves, that will be the big surprise and that will be the big move because that guy's great and he's got, you know, flexibility financial wise for a couple more years. He is so attractive. Why would the Tigers trade him? I just don't see it happening. But Scott, you're right. I think everything centers around the White Sox right now. Are they going to move Garrett Crochet? More important, if they do move him, how many more innings does he have left? Is he going to be a starter? Is he going to be a reliever? These are really difficult questions to be known for the acquiring team. Then you have to watch if Luis Robert is going to go because so many teams need another hitter, especially middle of the order bat, and he would provide both. And we have to watch, and this is the most fascinating thing to me, the Yankees and the Dodgers, they need help. They need to go get a starter each. They need to go get a hitter each. So when you find two teams that are already really good and need to win because of the pressure involved in this almost win the World Series or bust kind of season, it will be really interesting to see how aggressive the Yankees and the Dodgers are going after players. And I think it's got to start with Scooble, and I don't think he's going. Then I think you got to look at the White Sox and see who they move. And it seems fairly obvious to most people, the White Sox have to move as many people as possible because this is a rebuild without a doubt.
Who has the most pressure on them? The Yankees, who are looking to win the World Series with this roster. So like a Yankees Brian Cashman have the most pressure, or a Chris Getz White Sox. Like, don't screw this up or else we're going to be stuck for another 5 years, even though we're going to be stuck for another 3 years. Who has more pressure?
I think it's the Yankees because the Yankees have built this season and after the great start on going to and winning the World Series. And of course, the Juan Soto factor is enormous here. Every time they win a game, they improve their chances, even by a minuscule amount, of keeping him. If they go to and win the World Series, just logically, you would think they will have a better chance of keeping him to on a long-term deal because he will say, hey, we just won the World Series. I don't want to go anywhere. I want to play next to Aaron Judge for the next 5-10 years, whatever it's going to be. So I think there is more pressure on the Yankees given the Soto element and given that they haven't won the World Series since 2009 and people in the Bronx are getting restless.
How about more pressure? Two teams that are in similar situations. They're going to win for a long time, but they both have World Series aspirations. Orioles or the Dodgers?
I think it's even more so with the Dodgers, given how much pressure they put upon themselves by signing one guy who deserved it for $700 million. Then you add Yamamoto for another $300 million. When you spend over $1 billion on two players, it's almost by definition you have to win the World Series. And I think the Dodgers feel that. They know we need another hitter. We need another starting pitcher just in case Buehler and Kershaw don't come back like the pitchers we thought they would be. And Yamamoto, say, doesn't come back until September. And what's he going to be like? I think the Orioles have some pressure, no doubt, because Corbin Burns likely will leave after the season, but their farm system is still so loaded. I don't think they have to win this year necessarily because they have the cavalry coming and injured pitchers returning at some point. So I'll say the two most pressurized teams are the Dodgers and the Yankees to do something big at the trade deadline.
All right, the pressure's off, but now the pressure's on the Jays. Can the Toronto Blue Jays actually do the right thing and pull the trigger and trade some big pieces because so many teams need what they have? Or are they just going to do the little Kikuchi and maybe Danny Jansen and just their older pieces that are on 1 year expiring contracts?
Right. Well, Ross Atkins, the general manager, has made it clear we're not trading Bichette and we're not trading Vlad Guerrero Jr. Now, he said that roughly 3 weeks ago, and I was in complete agreement. But we've watched the Blue Jays now, and I'm sorry, I have relatives in Toronto, but the Blue Jays are not going to the playoffs, and that window is closing pretty quickly here. So maybe it's time to reconsider and see what the Dodgers will give you for Bo Bichette, who would play shortstop every day for them as a major upgrade. Then they can play Mookie Betts at second. I mean, Vlad Guerrero's got 4 homers in his last 5 games. We're starting to see that power bat that we saw a few years ago. How many teams would love to add him to the middle of the order? But you can't trade either one unless you get overwhelmed and get exactly what you need to keep the window open and stay good for several years. But 3 weeks ago, I said they shouldn't do it. Now I'm starting to wonder maybe they should.
Hey, Tim, I want to go back to a team that we're all looking at. And that's the White Sox. What are they going to do? And I look at a guy right now who's continuing to play good baseball when it's hard to play good baseball when you're on a bad team. Tommy Pham. When you look at his resume, and I look at the Yankees, you look at the Verdugos, the Grishams, is there a place for a guy like that? Is there a market or a trade proposal that might could get the Yankees a guy like that? Because when you look at the bats that are out there, there aren't many, at least that come to mind. You think of Lane Thomas. I think he could help a team. I think of Tommy Pham. What type of package or what type of team do you see those guys possibly fitting in as far as helping a team that needs a bat? Because there are not a lot of bats out there right now.
Right. Tommy Pham could help just about any team right now. You know this, Cam. He brings an edge to wherever he goes. And if you're going to play down the stretch, you're going to need a guy in there who is ready to rumble any day, whether it's at the plate or anywhere else. And that's what Tommy Pham brings. I thought the Blue Jays could desperately use him a month ago, but maybe it's a little too late for that. But any team that needs, Seattle needs another hitter. He would fit in with a bunch of teams. The Yankees could use Tommy Pham. The Dodgers could use Tommy Pham. He's not a great player, but he's a good hitter still. And like I said, he brings a toughness and an edge to any team, and that really helps down the stretch.
Hey, Tim, is there a team that's in wild card contention? We could say AL or NL that you really like, because we seem to be in this trend where wild card teams can make a deep playoff run, and we might be looking at a ball club that's 500-ish, kind of and then all of a sudden they get hot maybe in August and they just continue that streak like the Diamondbacks have done, the Braves have done a few years ago, all the way to a World Series title. Is there a team that you've seen, whether it's in person or you've just watched a good chunk of their games, that you're like, this could be this year's Diamondbacks, and also maybe they should be seriously adding even if they're not even in a playoff spot at this moment?
Yeah, Scott, there are a bunch of teams like that could be dangerous if they get in. But look at the Padres for a minute. I mean, when they get Fernando Tatis Jr. back, back. And they have Luis Ariz for the rest of the year hitting 350 or so. Their starting pitching since the All-Star break has been spectacular. Once they get everybody healthy, Darvish, Musgrove, the rest of them, I think they can throw out a three-man rotation in the postseason that could be very dangerous. And with the way they put it in play and the athletic nature of their team, they're one of those teams, one of several who get in and you say, oh boy, watch out for the Padres. I don't even know if they're going to make the playoffs, but if they do get in, they have a chance to be dangerous given the way they swing the bats and the strength of that starting pitching.
Hey, speaking of Tim, a team that is looking now all of a sudden like they will make the playoffs, and I don't think we're talking about enough. What is on the Astros plate as far as what are they going to do to bolster this team and try to make a run? Because now you look at it, Seattle has took a model dive to the depths. Now they're looking really suspect. They don't have the offense. Texas is kind of in the mix, but the Astros now looking like the team that they've always looked like, in the team atop of the AL West. Any word on what they might try to do to go and kind of try to shore up that team? I know we talked about bullpen help, starting rotation. What are you hearing?
Well, of course, like every other team, they could use a good hitter in the middle of the order. I mean, imagine Vlad Guerrero playing first base for the Astros. I don't think that's going to happen. What has to happen for them, at least for me, is they have to get their starting pitching healthy again. And we're not sure how long that's going to take. We're not sure how, when Justin Verlander, what he's going to look like when he comes back exactly. But I think that's what they need to do. I think they need to get healthy. I don't think they're a team out there saying we have to do something here. They're finally starting to put it together offensively. And boy, they know how to win at this time of year. 7 straight trips to the LCS. They are a really interesting team. And this is why Seattle has to do something with their lineup, because I don't think they can stay with the Astros without a major move at the trade deadline.
All right, your guy on here, Cam, when you interviewed him and asked him if he could dunk, he rolled his eyes. But yesterday, he put something out on Twitter, and I want you to respond to what he said. Are the Mets right now better than the Yankees?
I think the Yankees are still better than the Mets, but imagine even asking that question 2 months ago. It is a legitimate question now. Fellas, I went to England with the Mets and the Phillies, and the way the Mets won that crazy Sunday game with the play at the plate, even you have never made that play, Erik, and you were a great defensive catcher. Yes, you don't tell me you made that play before.
I did. I was the last person to have an unassisted, 2 unassisted since then. It's so crazy. It actually came up on the telecast. But anyway, yes.
That is beautiful. All I know is I got a good load of the Mets in England, and I left thinking, boy, they're not very good right now, but they have enough to turn this around, and their offense has really started to click. Francisco Lindor, since moved to leadoff spot, looks really good again. Francisco Alvarez has changed their offense, even though he's in a bit of a slump these days. I think the Mets can make the playoffs. I think the Yankees are better, but I thought there was zero chance the Mets could make the playoffs 2 months ago. They deserve a lot of credit for, after a horrendous start, one of the worst months of May you'll ever see, to turn it around and play that well the last couple months. Really impressive.
Tim, and I have to tell you exactly who it was. This is a name for you. It was a swinging bunt by Ian Desmond, who's playing for the Nats, and trying to score was Steve Lombardozzi.
Oh my gosh.
There's your name for you. There's your name.
Ian Desmond, Steve Lombardozzi. That can't be right. He's 50 years old.
No, Steve Lombardozzi's son.
Yeah, I was gonna say I covered Steve Lombardozzi in the 80s with the Twins.
No.
All right, now Erik, the play that you made, did it protect a 1-run lead in the 9th inning like that? It couldn't have.
It was not a one. It was a close game, but it was not a 1-run lead.
Right. Well, my point was that play that we saw has never happened in the history of baseball. A two unassisted like that to protect a 1-run lead and end the game. But I knew you would be a part of this because backup catchers are a part of everything. They're the lifeblood
That's what
of
they
the
do.
sport. We love it. It's great.
He's great for media. Kratz does not miss a beat on anything. Major leagues, minor leagues, crazy plays, all of that. All right, so I want to finish with this, Tim. I know you launched a new podcast this year with your son, which we're excited to check out here with Jeff. So wanted to get some insight. Is this a great game or what? I've looked, there are some incredible guests. I love to learn about the history of the game, and also just it is difficult to get the VIPs of the VIPs. So do you want to give our listeners a little taste of what it's about and also maybe one standout moment right now?
Well, it's just a Valentine Day show for baseball fans. All right. There's no heavy lifting. We're not doing any predicting. We're not yelling at each other. It's a father and a son talking about baseball. We learn and we laugh. That is our motto of our show. And we have laughed uproariously last week with Johnny Bench, who, by the way, Erik, was even better than you behind the plate. And we have so much fun. And here's how bad I am at technology, which I acknowledge to you guys. I drive to Philadelphia from Maryland every week, every Monday, to do the show from my son's basement because I'm afraid to be left alone with the technology in my house just in case anything goes wrong. So if my microphone doesn't work or my headphones don't work, I can look at Jeff, who's a magician with technology because he's 30. And I said, please help old Pop-Up figure out what to do here. Otherwise, I can't do it. It has been so much fun. It has been the highlight of my career because I'm working with my son and we're talking about baseball. Last week we had Johnny Bench. We had Cal Ripken Jr. the week before, Scott Van Pelt the week before. So we have a lot of laughs because, fellas, sorry, we're covering baseball for a living. It's an impossible sport to play and to cover. You better laugh once in a while. Otherwise, you're not going to get through it.
Well, you master it for a long time, obviously, Tim, like you mentioned. And it's okay. You don't have to be the tech wizard. That is totally for Jeff. That is fine. And I love the devotion of driving over there because I get it. You don't want to have Johnny Bench waiting on line one and say, ooh, I don't know how to get my connection back.
No, that's not happening at our show because we got a brilliant kid figuring it out, not some dopey old dad.
Well, everyone go check it out. What?
Are you the one on a FaceTime call where, like, as the call goes, you just keep getting lower and lower and lower, and they're like, "I'll pop up, Tim, come back," and you're like, "What?
Right.
Do you get lower as the screen goes?
Well, that's kind of how my whole life works, Erik. I'm always getting lower every time. When you're 5'4.5", there's not many places that you can go.
Well, and maybe he can't dunk, but I've always heard Tim is one of the better media basketball players out there. You are, a legend in that category. People always say, don't play one-on-one with Kurkjian. Don't get in a pickup game and think he's on the other side like you can take him down. So just a little shout out for our crowd if they don't know.
Well, I know this. I could throw a lob to Cam, and he would slam with both hands. He can do it any way he likes. I know how to throw a lob.
I'll catch it for sure.
There you go. I love that. Well, Tim, you're the best. Thank you so much for joining us, enlightening us on what's going on here with the trade deadline, some of these teams. Good luck continuing with the podcast with your son, Jeff, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Okay, fellas, thanks. I loved it. See you.
Appreciate it. We'll be right back.
I really like Robert, man. I'm a big fan of Robert just from his skill set and his routine. He has a very diligent hitting routine that, I mean, day in and day out, he's in there. He's very studious of his routine, and part of being consistent is having a routine day in and day out, and he has that. And you factor a guy like him with his ability. I really think offensively, just plate discipline, which I don't. To be honest with you, I don't know if that's something you could develop in the big leagues. But I mean, his skill set's off the charts, and he's not a guy who just says, "Oh, okay, I have this ability," and he's a guy with that ability that works. So you could get behind him. There's several guys on this team, man. This is a team that works. I mean, when you have our record, you can't just be sitting around. That's just the truth. You imagine being in a locker room full of guys who are just sitting around on their ass, on their behinds, and we're losing every day. And most of these guys have options, so that's just not allowed. And it's a young team. I'm the highest tenured player on the team now that Maldy's gone, and it guys seeing me work the way I work and having the time that they have, I mean, it's not going to happen.
Hey, we're back. FoulTerritoryShop.com is the only spot to get nice, soft, perfectly fit Foul Territory t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, multiple varieties, wristbands. I wear one literally 24/7. Stickers, coffee mugs, the whole deal. Again, FoulTerritoryShop.com if you want to support the FT fam. Busy time of year for us. We're hustling for you. So if you want to wear a little Foul Territory somewhere out in public, that'd be cool. Oh, man. Got to do this one today. We don't do it every day, but today is a day where injuries suck. We'll start with the latest update. It's on Kurkjian Yelich. So he not only could require an IL stint and now is requiring an IL stint, right? He gets put on the shelf while Gary Sanchez is back with the Brewers. The latest news, he's going to see a spine specialist tomorrow, might need season-ending surgery. He was pretty dejected when he was talking about this situation. Kratz, you know him well. I don't know. I mean, Cam, obviously you played against him. I don't know. You didn't play with him, right?
I never played with Yelly, but I always played against him and always, spoke to him in between the lines. So that's a tough one, man. It's a tough one. It seems kind of chronic, man. Things you always worry about, feet, knees, back as athletes, and those things can be chronic. And, he just looks so good this year. It just, looking like his old self, really leading that team. You're just happy to see the guy out there playing the game that he loved to play. So and then you can see it, like you said, you can just kind of see the discernment in his face and how, how dejected he was. So, we're rooting for good news for Yelly, man. He's one of the good ones in the games. And I know Kratzy can touch on that even more.
Yeah. I mean, it was an all-star this year. Third all-star game. Talked to him a little bit, the all-star at the party before or after the home run derby, and he was like, I'm pushing right now. He's pushing. He was trying to keep it together and stay out there. You hate to see a spine specialist. And he's kind of dealt with this. He's kind of dealt with back stuff even back in 2018 when I played with him. It was kind of something that, he's always kind of working. And I feel like that kind of stuff, like Cam said, feet, back, are chronic types of injuries that kind of keep going. His injury in 19 that robbed him of back-to-back MVP was a shattered kneecap. I felt like it took him a while to truly, fully come back from that and strengthen it. And you saw it last year a little bit, and then it culminated in this season. And I hope the news isn't as bad as when you hear spine specialist, but It is a trade deadline. Guy like Jazz Chisholm's out there that could play a little outfield for you. Just saying.
The only counter I'll give you is the Brewers have outfield depth. That's the one spot where I feel pretty good about them. I've read a few reports.
Pitching.
Yeah, they need pitching. I've read a few reports lately that have said they could be one of those baseball trades contenders, right? Because there's probably 6 or 7 guys in that outfield when they're healthy that could be starters. Yeah. I mean, obviously now they take a hit if Yelich is going to be out for the season, but there's names there,
I'm
right?
with you though, Kratzy. I'm with you on that. I know they have outfield depth is one thing, but outfield production is another thing. And when Jazz Chisholm is healthy, he's going to produce. So I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all.
One more here. Mike Trout removed after 2 innings and 1 at bat from his first AAA rehab game. Still feeling the knee soreness there. So some people are like, why is it taking so damn long? He was hurt at the end of April. And then he has the torn meniscus surgery in the left knee. Well, he had to leave that game. He was supposed to come back on Thursday. I doubt that's going to happen now. We'll see what happens. That one sucks. I mean, it's not like the Angels are contending. We just want to see him back. He was so good for the first month of the season. And unfortunately, he's just been bit by the injury bug quite a bit lately. And then those injuries seem to linger for a good chunk of the season. So I'm sure he's bummed. I mean, he's near tears, when it happened. So I can only imagine what he's going through right now.
And I haven't seen anything as far as like what exactly meniscus surgery he had. I had meniscus surgery and I was back in less than 5 weeks. JT Realmuto had meniscus surgery and he's back. He came back right after the All-Star break. Like, everybody is different, and there ain't no way that this dude doesn't want to be on the field. And so for it to keep lingering, you got to trust him. You got to trust your franchise player. He is your cornerstone of your franchise. If the Angels will ever turn anything around, him coming back this week or 2 weeks from now is not a big deal. So fans don't need to freak out. He will get back when he is healthy.
And then lastly, Mariners fans should freak out. I just want to call this out. Julio Rodriguez to the shelf. The ankle didn't respond well to the treatment. He crashed into the wall the other day. And then also J.P. Crawford broken pinky from the hit by pitch. Damn, that team is going through it on offense right now. They need to do a lot of work over the next week or so. They have a great farm system, so they should be able to do whatever they want. Just throwing that out there. All right. I know Ty France is gone from the team now as they DFA'd him. So let's keep an eye on the Mariners. They need 2, 3, maybe even 4 bats. It's that crazy right now for this team. All right. On that topic, let's ask Chad Jennings next from The Athletic about some trade talk, and we'll focus in on the Red Sox, but we'll hit all teams since he just wrote about them. That's coming up. So add all of this up, guys, and there are more misses, whatever you want to call it, that help to tell the story, JJ, that if a team is one piece away, often the right decision is go for it.
I would say that generally, if you acquire the best player in a trade, it's a blockbuster deal, you're usually going to win out, right? Now, if you trade for a rental and then you do nothing, with that rental, if you don't make it far in the playoffs and all, I get it. You can absolutely regret that. Jeff Bagwell waves his hand as an example of something like that. Jeff Bagwell for Larry Anderson or Doyle Alexander for John Smoltz, if we go way back. But at the same time, once especially you get outside of the top 10, the top 15 prospects in the game, there's a lot of risk. There's a lot of variance there. And the players sometimes, Jeff mentioned, like, if you look at the last 10 years and you say, who are the players that teams most regretted trading away, it's probably Jordan Alvarez for Josh Fields. It's probably O'Neal Cruz for Tony Watson. Those are a couple of examples. And those are much more modest trades at the time. Jordan Alvarez hadn't played a pro game at that point. O'Neal Cruz was years away from the big leagues at that point. That's the dream everyone has, is that you're going to pick up this prospect. And, Fernando Tatis Jr. being picked up, wasn't a deadline deal, but being picked up when he's still in rookie ball. Those are the kind of trades everyone dreams of. They don't happen very often. Most of the time, you end up getting someone who either has a very short big league career or no big league career in most of these trades. We see about 60 players, 60 prospects traded every July. And out of those 60, if 2-3 of them end up having good long big league careers, that's a pretty good trade deadline. So the weighting here is often on the side of the team acquiring, because you're also taking on salary, and that's something that often teams don't really, they'll often give away players because they want to get rid of the salaries as well.
Hey, we're back, and Chad Jennings is back on Foul Territory. You can follow him, and we'll post some of these clips that we're about to get into with Chad on Twitter. And then please check out all of his work in The Athletic on the Red Sox and on all teams. I liked his article about the trade tiers. We'll get into that. But Chad, great to see you, and I want to start with the team you cover the closest, the Boston Red Sox. Interesting season for them. So can you just give us the high-level view of what you think is going to happen over the next week, and also where the needs are at? Because I've seen, a few different ideas. I know at least a pitcher, right? But what do you think they'll do on offense too, if they're going to do something?
Well, part of the problem that they've run into, I think, is they need a right-handed bat, but where are you going to fit it? I mean, their outfield's pretty good. You could maybe go for like a Justin Turner, right, and DH, and just give fewer at bats to Yoshida or something. I mean, there are ways to do it, but where they really could use a guy is up the middle, right? Second base or shortstop. But where's that offense coming from? Where are you going to trade for a second baseman who's going to give you the sort of right-handed bat you need? They definitely need pitching. I mean, they need both depth and, look, if you can get impact, that's great. I don't think they're in a spot where they're going to trade Marcelo Mayer for Garrett Crochet or something. So they need an arm. But where they need offense it's just a trick to me of where do you fit it? And, you could maybe go for it at DH and just minimize some playing time for Yoshida. But I think that's where that's a little bit tricky for them in terms of the impact they need and kind of what to target and where can you really get it?
Could they do more of a baseball trade? One of our fans on the chat, Tom Wilson, asks, could they do a baseball trade with a Tyler O'Neill to give them the need that they have?
Yeah, I think so. I think I really actually think that's where we're gearing up for. I think it's going to be very frustrating for fans here in Boston if they do something more sort of down the middle after several years of not really committing one way or the other. But I think that makes a ton of sense. I mean, O'Neill's had a really nice year, but they don't play him every day. You got to kind of have to worry a little bit about health. Their outfield is strong. Free agent at the end of the offseason, at the end of the season, I think it makes some sense to try to swap him, even if it's a two deal, even if it's two different trades, right? Do you trade, if you can't find an O'Neill for a pitcher, could you do O'Neill for some prospects and then which frees you up to feel better dealing some of the current prospects for an arm? In theory, you could kind of do the same thing in the bullpen, maybe. They've got some depth there. They've got some young arms that they like. If you're not totally sold but don't want to give up, could you trade Kenley and not feel like you're totally mortgaging everything in the year? I don't know. That's a harder one to do because, obviously the veteran closer and a super popular guy in the room. But I think there's some room there to try to make those sort of trades where you maybe move from depth and then try to still address places where you're a little thin.
Yeah, I wanted to ask because it seems like when you talk about the lack of fit, a lack of guys available, one guy that stands out to me, and I keep hearing him tied in with the Dodgers, is Randy Arozarena. But I think Randy Arozarena could be a great fit when you talk about that right-handed bat, some versatility on each corner, would get your sheet off his feet even more. Any type of words or any type of conversation around the guy like Randy? Because I think he would be a great fit.
Yeah, I mean, not that I've heard. In fact, my inclination right now is based on my conversation stuff feels a little bit quiet at the time, which I think is true for everyone, right? There's too many teams sort of still trying to figure out exactly what they're about to do here. Look, any right-handed bat you can bring up, I think, is going to fit, and you can put him in the outfield. If in theory you could go get a DH, you could go get a left fielder, right? I mean, you can move pieces around and make it work. It's just that's not, to me, that's not their most dire spot. I mean, ideally you'd be able to upgrade second or short, and that's just not out there. So if you do want to get a bat, something like that could make sense. I just think that's the cost there might be a little higher. So could you go, bring back Justin Turner, who's super popular here, and guys in the clubhouse already know and love him, and give him some of the DH at bats, and figure that gives you another right-handed hitter. To me, that feels more viable than specifically targeting a guy who you might have to pay a little extra for because he can play the outfield when you don't necessarily need that. But look, a bat's a bat, right? So whatever if they find the price is right and that's the kind of hitter they can get, I think that's where they go.
Hey, Chad, I've got an interesting report here that literally just popped up while we're talking to you, which is always fun when you're talking to
Sure.
the Boston guy for The Athletic. So we'll get your...
As I reach for my phone next to me. Okay, yeah.
Yes. So Jeff Passan from ESPN said the Red Sox and Alex Cora have engaged in recent talks on a contract extension, and there is momentum toward a deal, sources telling him and Buster Olney. After months of silence regarding Cora's lame duck status, a multi-year contract is a real possibility. And I know we'll keep it tight with you because I know you'll probably jump off right after this to do some digging on your own. But what have been your thoughts on Cora and his status with the Red Sox this year, and also the fact that he's mentioned maybe wanting to be in a front office? This sounds like that would put it to bed.
Yeah, I don't think the front office thing was ever something that he's thinking right away. But I would be surprised if there's an extension. That's not to say, I trust Jeff, obviously, but
sure.
But my feeling has always been that Alex was kind of wanted to test the market and see what was out there, especially, another year when he's, Breslow's just gotten here, that relationship's not there. The ownership loves Alex. I mean, this organization really thinks highly of Cora. I think he's done a good job here. He handles the media here very well. I'm not shocked from a Red Sox perspective that they're interested in bringing him back, and are willing to engage in the talks. At this point, I had fully expected that, in the wake of Craig Counsell, that Alex Cora was going to be, really one of the bigger free agents on the market this year, just no longer one who's playing. But look, this organization values him a lot. He's had a lot of success here. He's having another good year. So from that perspective, it can't be too shocking that the Red Sox be interested in trying to keep him.
Does that mean there was a rift between him and Heim? Does that mean there was some type of misconnection there that wasn't happening and caused kind of the mediocre season last year?
I don't know. It did not feel that way when it was happening. The sense during the whole time there was that I thought they actually were getting along pretty well. Now at the end, I did not feel that way at the end, that this felt like something had broken. I don't know that I can say, that's why they didn't have the success. But I do think in the end, coming off the back-to-back losing seasons, right, 22, 23, it did feel to me like it was a one or the other situation. And not that I don't know that it's because their relationship was so broken as to make it one or the other. I just felt to me like the Red Sox felt like it's one or the other, and that Cora is the one who stayed. Most of the time that Heim was here, my sense always was that they got along pretty well and actually worked together okay and were fairly in line. But in the end, I don't know that it was. Obviously, the relationship was not good enough at the end for them to stick together, and for the franchise to think that combination was still what they wanted going forward.
This is kind of a two-piece question here. Didn't Chaim Bloom essentially build this team and this minor league system, and somebody else came in and changed the pitching philosophy and got them success, which is this all overarching this entire season a failure because they didn't go out and get any big pieces? And so if they have this success, ownership looks at it and goes, hey, we don't ever have to go out and get a good piece. We signed Rafi. Fans are happy. Look, we did everything right.
Well, I would argue against the idea that fans are happy. I think fans are happy that the team is playing well. I don't know that they are sold that this is exactly what they are used to and are ready to buy in on full time. Yes, I think certainly now, to me, the interesting alternative history is if Heim's still here and it is the team that he started to build, right? This is his core. Some of these guys are left over from Dombrowski, but generally speaking, this is his core, whether it's, the prospects he acquired or the guys that he chose not to trade and hold on to, whatever it is. He feels like if he's still running the show this offseason and this is his core and he believes in it, is he going to push more for ownership to say, this is the group to invest in. I'm ready. Let's spend money now and make the big moves. Is he more willing to be aggressive in that way than Breslow coming in, who maybe likes a lot of the pieces, right? It's not like he dumped all these guys, but he didn't build it. It's not his roster yet. Is he going to be a little less aggressive and go into John Henry and saying, nope, I think these are the guys? It would be interesting to know how the alternative universe plays out. If Heim sees his contract through to his last year, does he push more this offseason so that, the biggest acquisition of the winter was Lucas Giolito. They could use a guy like that, but he gets hurt. But it was not that was not the splash, I think, that people here were expecting when the team had been touting this young core that they were ready to build around, and then seemed to have sort of delayed that at least until the deadline or maybe all the way into next offseason.
Chad, I know, Alex has for the most part been likable, and obviously he's helping this team outperform expectations for the most part. How do you think the franchise is doing right now from a PR/business perspective? Obviously, business is more than fine for the Fenway Sports Group, but I know attendance has been a little and even ratings have been a little There aren't as many big superstar names that you can hold on to and watch on a year-by-year basis. So I'm wondering how this all ties in to Craig Breslow's comments the other day about not just saying, yes, we're in playoff range, we are buying. There was front office speak, and he's done a great job there. But to me, that seems to trickle down a little bit from the ownership side of not totally knowing what you're able to do and not do, and having to protect the way that they're operating differently and not as a top 3 budget franchise, we get who we want these days team.
Yeah. Oh, that's why I say when we were joking about like fans being happy that they're playing well, that they're used to this being the Red Sox, man. Like top 2-3 in payroll, no doubt that they're willing to go out and look. Even getting Hanley Ramirez and Pablo Sandoval didn't work, but at least ownership was in, and at least that there was this like massive commitment. And so I think that's a different type of satisfaction from the fan base than, we've made a lot of little smart moves that have worked really well. There's a certain level of satisfaction in just knowing like, hey, we're a team that if we want a guy, we're going to have him. And so I think that, from a PR standpoint, the team that's the only way to show it. That's the only way that fans here are so committed to the team. I think until ownership shows that level of payroll commitment and willingness to go get the free agent, make the big move on the trade market, whatever it is, there's always going to be some question here. What John Henry and his ownership group has done over these 20 plus years is kind of unmistakable, right? It's like 4 championships. They've built up that Fenway area, the impact to just some causes, the Red Sox Foundation, the commitment to the Jimmy Fund, all that stuff. These are really good things that they've done. And yet you see how quickly, if you show even the slightest hesitation here in a full commitment to the team, how quickly people start to question the real commitment to the organization and to the city and to all of this. So I think until they are ready to start making that kind of big move again, those questions are going to hound them. And right or wrong, fair or not, those questions are going to be there until they're the team that makes that kind of splash again and goes out and just gets brings in the big name and is not still, right now they just hold, you still hold over them that they traded Mookie Betts. I mean, that's a hard thing to bounce back from and to justify and say, oh no, we're all in. Like if you were all in, Mookie Betts would be playing right field here,
That's right.
So it's going to take a little bit of damage control still to sort of prove to people again that ownership is still that committed.
Hey, more insight from Chad at Chad Jennings 22. Follow him. So let's finish with this because your article about a week ago about trade deadline tiers was interesting. Can you just give us a summary or even just, a name or two that stood out in terms of either teams or players that you want to highlight? And then, of course, people can double click and get themselves an athletic subscription to actually get more on it. But give us something good or even something that really got the comments stirring, because sometimes I'll just go to the bottom and after the article and just see what's going on down there. They're smart fans, but they're bringing it too. They'll write their own essay about what they think you wrote wrong or right.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I tell my mother. Don't read the comments. But look, I mean, we tried to just coming out of the All-Star break, really just kind of break down, get sort of a big view of sort of where people are. And I think the one thing that stood out to me in going through it is, we were trying to label teams of like, where are they in terms of trending one way? Are they clearly buyers? Are they not? But some of the teams that I wound up putting in just sort of like the typical buyers bucket, right? I think that group, I had the Phillies, I had Cleveland, Houston, the Braves, the Orioles, the Brewers, the Twins. It's such a wide array in there, right? Like, I mean, we're a week out from the deadline, and you just look at how much the expanded playoffs have changed things and the way we think of buyers and sellers. It's I mean, here we are again. We're a week out, and like nothing's happening. We're talking about, is Alex Cora going to sign a contract extension? We should be, you'd think we'd be all in on some moves that are starting to really take place, but the field still seems so wide open. So many teams still sort of, figuring out where exactly they are. I mean, look at the Mets, look at the Royals, like these teams that they're still like a little bit, I think, undefined and curious to see where they go. That's the big thing that I thought of trying to go through it coming out of the break was like, man, it's still hard to know exactly, or even, from the outside, try to get a sense of where you think these teams should go, because there are just enough of them that are still vaguely in it. And that extra playoff, the expanded playoff field has changed this dramatically and has made a lot of teams have to wait a little longer.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a log jam. It's holding things up. It's clogging things up. It's annoying. Chad, really appreciate the time. Very, very timely to have you on. Thank you for the insight on the state of the Sox and Cora and all of that. And go check out Chad's work, obviously, at Chad Jennings 22, and read his articles in The Athletic. Thank you, Chad.
Sure. Thanks, guys. Anytime.
Be right back on FT. All right, people, let's keep the conversation going for another few minutes on Alex Cora and get your thoughts. So the latest here from Buster Olney, the deal that they've been discussing is in the range of 3 years, $21.75 million would be the second highest salary on a per year basis for a manager behind Craig Counsell, who signed that 5-year, $40 million contract. So that's $8 a year for Counsell over 5. Cora's deal, if this comes to fruition, would be a little over $7 million per season. Woo. Thoughts? I didn't think that he was necessarily going to go back to the Red Sox, but if he did, I thought he would take it to free agency. To me, Kratz, this is how the Craig Counsell effect impacts the rest of the market. Alex Cora doesn't even have to go to, quote, free agency because one guy did it, and that's generally not what teams and managers do, and he is going to get paid definitely more than he would have gotten paid a year ago if they had this conversation.
100%. Going to free agency doesn't necessarily, especially if you have a number in mind that you're like, well, I have a World Series. I won a World Series. Craig Counsell did not. So let's just make sure that my number is X close to his or Y close to his. Maybe he didn't want 5 years, whatever the numbers end up being. if you hit that, you don't have to go to free agency because there may not be a better team, and the team you're currently with might move on.
Yeah, I agree. One thing I like is you have Craig Breslow, a very, very bright mind. And I've said it through experience. Alex Cora is one of the brightest baseball people that I've ever been attached to or been in a room with. And I think you're seeing it. You put these two baseball minds together, and Kratzy had some great questions on Heim and the outlook and what could have been on the same page, may have not been on the same page. Well, I think you're seeing two really good baseball minds come together, and you look at the AL East and what they're able to do with the roster that has been constructed thus far. I think this deal is a great deal. I think it's a fair deal, and it gives the Boston Red Sox 3 more years for Alex Cora to continue to put his brilliant brain out there to try to help this team get back to the Red Sox that we all have known them to be. So I think it's a fair deal. I think it's a smart deal, and like you said, it saves Alex Cora a lot of headache in having to go to free agency, which isn't always a fun thing to do, even though you're going to be compensated. I think this is good for him, and hey, 3 years from now, this might put him in the situation to be in the front office.
Bet MGM Locks. Thanks, Leo, for rubbing it in. We had a bad day. Everybody lost. Day before, though, everybody either won or pushed. So thus is life. I felt good early, Kratz. I got a few runs early in that White Sox-Rangers game, and then both those teams reminded me who they were. Very, very frustrating game. Actually, some good defense in that game, but still, no excuses. They fell a couple runs short. So it is what it is, but we all fell.
Fair. I fell with Juan Soto. I was the cooler for Juan Soto. He was hot. Thought it was going to happen there when they left Nunez in to face him. Didn't get it done.
Mm-mm. All right, so let's get back on the winning side of things. Kratz, you lead the way.
All right. Easy peasy. We're going parlay. I'm not parlay pap today, but I am parlay John. So we're going Braves money line, the second game of this double dip. They were losing the first game, so that even gives me a better chance. It's Sale. So it's Sale day, and I love Sale out there on the mound for the Braves. And the Orioles over the Marlins. So those are my two, and it comes out to plus 160.
Okay, there you go. And then I'll read Paps. We didn't get an incredible selfie in time from Parlay Pap, the legend. But I will read his Texas money line. He's got the Rangers beating the White Sox. Shocker. He's been picking on the Sox all year, but it's been pretty successful. And then he's got KC winning today at plus 154 for the combination of those two. All right, Cam, what do you got for us?
Well, you know what? I'm going to stay in the AL Central. I'm going to pick on the Tigers a little bit. I'm going to go with Bybee with over 6.5 Ks. Plus 110. I got to make some money back. I think Tanner Bybee's going to come out, man on the mission, locked in, and do what he's been doing as a young pitcher, and that's continue to dominate.
I love this. So Cam and me have had some good back and forth today. And, of course, I'm going on the other side of this matchup. But we can both win. We can both be happy here, okay? Mm-hmm. I'm cool with Bybee pitching, giving up a few runs to the Tigers and striking out the world. But can I get a Tigers money line win? It's plus money. It's Bybee against Flaherty. I actually think both teams, especially right now, are pretty close in terms of their offense. Cleveland's got a better offense for the year, but their offense has been sputtering lately. I was looking back. I mean, they had 5 runs yesterday, but before that, in a 3-game span, it was 3 runs. They're averaging less than 3 runs over the last 10. Detroit's offense has been good. It came into the All-Star break hot, and they've come out of it the same way. 4+ runs in 7 straight games. Add all that up. Bybee has, the walks tick up a little bit. I'm fine with the Ks, though. Fine with the Ks for Cam. Plus 125 for the Tigers to win tonight. Feel pretty good about that one. So I need a dub. I'm going to lay down $200 to win $250 this evening. And Kratz knows. Yeah, I don't do that often, but I don't know.
Wow, this is a big day, Cam.
His 5-star
lock
to get some money back
yesterday.
We need to get some money back.
I gotta pick it back up.
Time to tail Scott tonight.
Please give it a shot and download the BetMGM Sportsbook app or hit up betmgm.com. If you're a first timer on there, you can sign up and deposit at least $10 into your account and then get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets when you place your first wager. Depends how much you place with that wager, got to use the bonus code FOUL, FOUL. And if that bet does lose, your bonus bets will be available once your initial wager is settled. Gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Lot of trade rumors to get to in a moment.
I agree with that. They are going to sell, in my opinion. And I wrote that as much today by basically saying if they're not considering selling, they ought to be, something like that. And the topic of the person I wrote about, well, it was Nathan Eovaldi. And Nathan Eovaldi would be the kind of starting pitcher who every contender would want to have because of his postseason record. This is a guy who has done it in October. Now, getting back to the team itself, for whatever reason, and it's always hard to figure these things out, this team, it just does not seem to be their year. You could say the same thing, mostly because of injuries with the Braves, but the Rangers have not played like they played last year. They certainly have not hit like they did last year. Their pitching actually has been pretty good. So if they do decide to sell, they will be a very interesting team, perhaps even the team that kind of controls this deadline along with the White Sox. They've got 2 relievers on expiring contracts who are really good. Kirby Yates, All-Star, David Robertson as well. They've got Eovaldi, who has a $20 million vesting player option, but I don't expect that to get in the way of anything. He likely, if he pitches well and is healthy, would simply become a free agent and decline that option. They've got John Gray, under control for 1 more year at $13 million. They can move him, maybe free up some money to sign Eovaldi back as a free agent. He is the one guy that might kind of do something like that. He's close with Chris Young. He's from Texas. He, I don't think, would be opposed to coming back if he is traded. And then you have some position players, too, that you could at least dangle. Guys who aren't necessarily having great years. Nathaniel Lowe, Leody Taveras, on and on. There is a good list of players that they could move and retool quickly to add to the young talent that they have, and then come back next year with Simeon, Seager, maybe DeGrom and Molly, and some others, and they'd be in pretty good shape.
What's up, FT fam? We are back, and I want to shout out our little collaboration that we've got with Teaza that is still running. No nicotine, no tobacco, a little boost, energy, focus. There it is. Available now at teazaenergy.com. Cam, I'll set you up with some of these too. These are nice. Collector's item too. Once you finish the puck. Once you finish the puck.
Ken. One time.
I mean, you know what I'm saying, Kratzy? Hook your boy up. I like cool stuff.
Man, one time. Come on more than once a week. Come on, Cam. Let's go.
Hey, fair.
That's right.
Fair.
That's right. We're working on that. But anyway.
Receive.
Yes, exactly. More Cam, please. QR codes on the screen, teazaenergy.com. There's still a promo code FOUL that you can use at checkout when you make your first purchase to get yourself 20% off. So go check that out. If you know someone that dips, like the bad dip, go tell them, get off of that stuff. No nicotine either. Check out Teaza. We're a big fan of what they're doing over there. All right. We have a special slap hands here. Can we do slap? And then we're gonna go over. We'll do it later. Actually, sorry. Let's go over questions right now. Okay. So a couple things that have popped up first in terms of reports and rumors over the last 12 hours or so. I want to start with Jazz Chisholm because Cam, I know you've mentioned that you know him. I've covered him in the game for a while. He's a fun guy. I'm a fan because he speaks his mind. He promotes the game, right? And I know he's kind of become I don't know what you call it, like not controversial, but some people love him. Some people think that he needs to
Controversial.
focus more on the game. Controversial, yeah. I
That's
mean,
a
he was
good word.
voted the
That's a
most
good word.
overrated player in the Athletic Player poll. I think some of that has to do with being on the cover of a video game, and some guys are like, I should be on the cover. I'm better than him. But anyway, he's going to get traded, and I'll read 2 bits of news or reports. Okay, here's one on the trade deadline update with Patrick Mooney, Ken Rosendahl, and Katie Wu in The Athletic. 2 league sources, one with the Marlins, one with another club, used the same phrase when asked about questions regarding Jazz's makeup. Quote, it's not a secret. Speaking on condition of, anonymity in exchange for the candor, they said, some clubs are completely out on Jazz because of his strong personality. Other clubs are attracted to his power speed combo, not to mention his 2 additional years of club control. He's only due a bit over $1 million the rest of this season, then probably 5-ish next year in ARB. And then, of course, a little bit more the year after that, depending on how he plays. One more report, this from Jorge Castillo, who's covering the Yankees moves, said that Jazz, who began his career as a second baseman, would give the Yankees some pop, but the organization has concerns about how his personality would fit inside the clubhouse, according to a league source. We had Dan O'Dowd on yesterday, who didn't like him for the Pirates, but liked him for the Yankees, thinks that, the club would kind of help him out. I've seen like mixed reviews all over the place, though, Cam, so help me out here, because, the Pirates have a great guy in Andrew McCutchen who you could put the locker next to. The Yankees have, obviously, Judge and some other veterans that could help. I feel like he fits on most teams. I think this is getting overplayed in my mind. I don't know how you feel about it.
Listen, if they can handle Alex Verdugo in the Yankees clubhouse, then they can very well handle Jazz Chisholm. And again, he also gives you positional versatility. And I truly believe this going through the experience, and Kratzy knows, I always say certain people are built for certain things, meaning everybody isn't meant to play in New York. Jazz Chisholm is the type of guy who would not only embrace the New York Yankees pinstripes, the Bronx, the vibes. I think he would give them a spark and a unique energy that I think they need right now at this point in the year. I think healthy. I think he would fit perfectly in Yankee Stadium. Like you said, that's that power speed combination. And I do agree with Dan O'Dowd. He needs some accountability in his life and around him right now. And I think being in Miami, where, let's be honest, you can't show me who's been a real leader there since Jazz Chisholm has been there. And I don't think it's fair to ask him to be a leader since he's came into the game. He needs to be around other guys who have a vision, who has a focus that can get him to buy in, but also allow him to know, hey, it's okay. It's also cool to be yourself as long as you respect the game, respect your opponents, and respect your teammates. I think he would have no issue fitting into that Yankees clubhouse, especially when you talk about production, because this game is all about production. And Jazz, when he's healthy, he produces.
I've never seen somebody get traded to a team and ruin a clubhouse. And so if teams think somebody's going to ruin a clubhouse, they won't trade for him. But I've been traded so many times. Maybe it's because the old clubhouse was sick of me. So I went to a new clubhouse, and maybe I was the one ruining the clubhouse. Who knows? But it's something that it matters, because you're not picking up. The reason I'm saying that Tarek Skubal isn't getting picked up is because he's that good. Rarely in trades are you picking up that type of piece, like a Tarek Skubal type of piece. But even in the small trades, along with those big trades, it has to do how you fit. What kind of value are they getting out of you? And Jazz Chisholm is going to be a great player for the team he comes to. But if for some reason they think there would be a rift in the clubhouse because he shows up, which, man, I don't know the guy, but you'd have to do something pretty terrible to riff apart a team that needs help and you're there to help them, then the teams won't make the trade. That's the biggest thing. They won't make the trade. So that's unfortunate for him. I'd love Jazz to come on here and be like, defend himself and say, why would we not want him? Why? We had Tommy Pham on yesterday. Why would you not want Tommy Pham? We had Kevin Pillar on. Oh, because Kevin Pillar is such a great guy. What if Kevin Pillar's OPS was, completely average? Oh, well, then we'd love him because he's such a great guy. KP's got a 1+122 OPS plus right now. And so it's like, oh, well, that's easy. Andy's a good guy. It matters.
Yeah, let's send a request to the Marlins to try to get him on. I'd love to talk to Jazz.
Let me add this too. Let me defend Jazz, okay? Because one thing I know through experience being a black baseball player, we get used to watching a brand of baseball in the U.S. that is very, we've heard it from years growing up. Act like you've been there before. Act like you've done it. It's
Boring.
almost very. It's a very brand of It's a very boring brand of baseball, and I think that's what so many fans have become accustomed to, as well with guys who grew up in the U.S. and have played that brand of baseball, not really celebrating a double or not really having any flair, any flow. Well, that's what makes Jazz Chisholm special. And I've been a guy in this here in the past that says, yes, you have to respect the game, but don't ever lose yourself, because when you lose yourself, that's when you're not the best version of yourself. So I think we have to get over trying to make Jazz Chisholm like everybody else, the stale baseball player that so many people love, and allow him to be himself. And again, I think if you add him to a winning environment, I think fans would actually value him a lot more than they do right now, with him playing in Miami for so many years and really not really having a vision. If they make it, if they're competitive, great. If they're not, that's what you expect. So I think getting him in some meaningful baseball games, I think would actually add value to the character that we think Jazz Chisholm doesn't have. And that's just my opinion on it.
Players, coaches, and fans want Jazz Chisholm on their team because they want to win. Front offices sometimes can be that boring side of it, so they need to get out of the way to help their team win if they think he has that value.
Let's slap. Dayton Moore is joining the show tomorrow. We're getting some former GMs and obviously people still involved in the game. So Dayton will be great. And he's working with the Rangers still, right?
Working with the Rangers. Used to work.
And
yeah.
Obviously Royals talk, all that. Okay. Fair Territory is tomorrow. It's one of the most watched shows for Fair Territory you should get for the year. Bring on your questions for Ken. Watch that show live 12:30 Eastern time on the Foul Territory YouTube channel. Please subscribe there. Billy Epler Friday, Ken's on this show Friday, and a special Tuesday trade deadline marathon. We'll talk to you more about it tomorrow. We will see you then. All right. We're here for another few minutes before Dodgers Territory gets rolling. It's a special edition of DT today because the timing tomorrow conflicts for them with the game. Obviously, they're not trying to compete with the game. But anyway, got a great guest list coming up the rest of the week, like I mentioned. Also, let's get Kratz Hatz in there. What do you have for us today?
Real quick, sometimes you forget the one that you have on your head, but I wore this for Claudia because she's sick of the Iron Pigs hat, so I wore another Rail Riders hat. This is just the standard home. This is when me and Cam were teammates. He got his 10 years of service while on the IL in Scranton.
Yeah, baby.
There you go. Cam, grade it. What do you think?
I'm rocking with it. I'm rocking with the Rail Riders. It was a good time, good teammates. Luckily, I had a guy like Kratz there to, kill the spread. So that's what it's all about.
Hey, I want to rant. I didn't have time for this one today. But I think Twins fans should be pissed. When I read that Jeff Passan article yesterday, he said money issues continue to hinder the Twins' shot at a big move, and it's why they're an add and subtract team and not simply an add team like they ought to be. If the opportunity to acquire a higher salary player presents itself, they would need to offload salary from the Major League roster in that deal or another to cancel out the expense. So they're playing the whole, we have guys coming back from the IL game, which is fine. That's cool. I like that. Obviously, Royce Lewis, Jose Miranda, two very big pieces of the puzzle for them on offense. Correa's hurt right now, Brock Stewart. But the fact that they have to dance around a budget that is not high as it is, and they had playoff baseball last year at home, and they have to keep the budget in the same range is a shame. That should not be a thing. So they should be ashamed of that.
I wish they had a graphic of light bulbs of everybody that turns their love of baseball off in an area when people talk. Just bip off. Couple gone in Minnesota.
Yep. It's a shame. It's a damn shame. But anyway, FT fam, bring on the questions. I'm seeing them. I'll bring a bunch of them up on tomorrow's show. Dodgers Territory with Alana Rizzo and Clint Pasillas on the Dodgers Territory YouTube channel is coming up. And all you have to do is stay here. your YouTube account will automatically flip to that channel if you want to hang around and listen to them if you're on the West Coast for a little lunchtime. All right. Gavin Lux is joining the show. I want to make sure I throw that out there. Gavin Lux on DT coming up. All right. So enjoy that. Check it out. Cam, you're awesome. We'll see you very soon. All right, dude. And you're going to get a bunch of swag coming your way.
I need it.
It's coming.
Cam,
it's coming.
one time, Cam. One time.
For the boys.